Hi everybody, how you doing? I am Johan. Joining us down in lovely Saginaw, Michigan, is that man, Mr. Charleston Hughes. Look at that smile.
Everybody doing? Long time no see. I know we missed me last week.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for one of these shows, Chuck. So, joining
No
us
problem.
joining us today is obviously one of Chuck's favorite topics. Some good, some bad in this. So, but we're joining us today from the University of Regina. This is a fantastic professor, a gentleman that's going to be looking to do really mind-blowing movement in this subject, I think in the sports and for all good of health of a lot of people. Joining us today from the University of Regina, Professor Patrick Neary. Professor, how are you doing? Do I call you the weed doctor? Do I call you the professor? Or what do you prefer, Pat?
Yeah, you just call me Patrick. That's great. No worries. And thank you very much for having me on. And Chuck, I'm glad that we could see each other face to face. And I got a little present here for you. I just want to illustrate what this is all about. How's that look? we want you to come back.
What?
We want you to.
I'm still a rider fan somewhere deep down inside. I got a little drop of green somewhere in my heart.
We want you to come back. And green is good. Green is good, as you know.
There you go. There you go. This is a great segue, leeway into what we're going to be talking about today. And obviously today
green is good.
Yeah. And Chuck's now into the business, into the cannabis world. But what we're talking about today is cannabis and some of the effects, or I guess some of the benefits they're going to have with inflammation, pain, and concussions. And Professor Neary, Patrick, has recently been given a grant from the NFL, correct, Pat?
That's correct. Yeah, a call came out in July, late June, July of last year, and the NFL put out this application process. And one of my graduate students alerted me to it because I was quite shocked that the NFL was actually providing money for cannabis research. And I'm really supportive of their endeavors to try and make this sport a lot safer as well for their players, especially later on in their careers.
Yeah, and we had our guest for the last show, Jim McMahon, is a big component, fan of cannabis, and he's actually started his own company too in the States, in California, in regards to that. But Charleston, I gotta ask you this first, man. How excited were you to hear about this research being done here for football players and concussions involved with cannabis? Because I think for many years, for at least 20 years that I've known, CFL players have enjoyed some medical uses of cannabis. We'll call them medical uses of cannabis. What do you think that how can cannabis benefit pain, and what's your experience with this, and how excited are you to be able to get into a subject like this?
I don't know, man. I think it's making big leaps and big gains. I mean, the NFL already started to kind of loosen up anyways with cannabis. And I can't remember what. No, they went from having to discover, I don't know what the technical term is, in your bloodstream, where they went from 50 the THC levels in your bloodstream. They went from 50 and they pushed it to 150, when they can medically test you and suspend you and find you, and the whole Josh Gordon thing, the crazy stuff that he went through when it came to cannabis. So they kind of loosened up a little bit, and made it so guys can use it to a certain extent without getting in trouble. I know they got rid of the term that you can get suspended for it. But my thing is using it for health benefits. I mean, there's a lot of players in the NFL who are advocates for it, like Calvin Johnson, and you got Chris Long, and you got players in the NBA and the NFL. You got players that are just being more outspoken about it. You got Grant Gronkowski, who's being more outspoken about cannabis and the health benefits from it. I mean, a lot of these guys are just trying to get away from the use of taking prescription pills, really,
Opiates.
that are, more worse for your body than anything else. And I know for me personally, taking, cannabis topical creams and bath bombs and stuff like that, I know that stuff helped me tremendously. I know I got to a point where I was counting and keeping track of the amount of pills that I took during a football season. And I know I pushed at least anywhere from about 95 to about 130 Toradol pills within a 6-month span in a
Jeez.
football season. And it's to the point where I had to take at least 2 a game. And I'm begging the doctors to give me 2 so I can at least finish this game. And it got to the point where it was like that in an 18-game season, man. I'm pushing 2, maybe 3 pills a game, and that's just for games. We're not even talking practice. So, I mean, it's a topic that's
Mhm.
trending quite a bit amongst players that we got to find better ways to take care of our body without going to pills.
So, Patrick.
And
So,
I
Patrick.
know, Patrick, I know you could probably say tons of studies that you've researched when it comes to, situations with pain management and guys, finding alternatives to it.
How did
Yeah.
you?
Well, Charlton, as you mentioned, I have to take my hats off to the NFL for coming forward and caring about their players and providing this funding involved. There was $1 million that they gave out, and our research team are going to get 537,000 US dollars of that. So we're really, really excited about that and moving this whole research forward. And prior to this, it's only been done on rats and mice to take a look at. And of course, there's some human studies as well, but we haven't taken a look at the effects of the cannabinoids in the marijuana plant. And God gave us this plant on the earth, and it's really going to be vital for moving medications forward. And I really, really believe there's going to be a huge influx of research in this whole area in order to provide a benefit, not only as you just spoke about, Charleston, during game day, but what happens after, in the days following, and then in the years following your retirement. And so that's what we're really excited about is how can we contribute back and provide the science to illustrate that, hey, we've got a green plant here on the earth that's got components in it that can be used as a medical property in order to alleviate pain and try and reduce opioids, for example. And I don't need to talk to you about the effects of opioid addictions and what happens when players take that. So we're really excited about this opportunity to do this research.
Yeah, I bet. One of the questions I want to know, Patrick, is how the hell did you get started in this? What was the thought process where I'm gonna go, let's smoke some weed or let's get into the cannabis and then let's get into concussions and helping out athletes or the pain. What was your start with this and the thought process and how it evolved to where you are today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And some of that I'm going to avoid. I'm not going to answer directly.
No problem. No problem. Mum's a word.
but,
Yeah.
but no, to be really honest, had you asked me, or we done this interview 5 years ago, I would have said you're absolutely nuts. What the hell do I want to look at cannabis for in helping the brain for concussion? And that just goes to illustrate how things have changed in the last 5 years. That people are starting to come forward to say, "Hey, there's got to be a better way of doing this." And we know that, for example, the CBD or the cannabidiol that's found in the cannabis plant, and that doesn't make you high. It has an anti-inflammatory property. It's an anti-inflammatory property. And you can ask Charleston, when he finished a game, he's got tons of inflammation in his body, not only in the muscle and in the heart, but also in brain or tissue, the neural tissue in the brain. So we get this huge inflammation. And what can we use in order to alleviate or to reduce this inflammatory response? And it's been shown that CBD is anti inflammatory. And therefore, if it's anti inflammatory, then it's probably going to be able to provide what we call a neuroprotective property. So we can actually protect the brain potentially by using CBD. And that's going to be one of the studies that I'm really excited to do. And we're going to use junior football teams here in Canada. We're going to use the University of Regina, the Rams. We're going to use the University of Saskatchewan Huskies. We're going to use the Hilltops and the Thunder. We're going to use the Kelowna Suns, etc. So we're going to use junior football in order to show the importance of this work to see what we can find out.
I know Charleston's itching to say something about this, but my quick question is, how many players rose with their hand and said, "Hey, can I come be a volunteer for the program?" Yeah. How many volunteers have you had respond to this? How many thousands?
Well, it's interesting. On February the 1st, when the NFL announced this, that they were awarding money for this type of research, and of course, we were one of those. We had so many people coming out of the woodwork saying, one, we'd like to help you with your research and support what you're doing. But I also had CFL players here locally in Regina. And of course, Charleston was one of the first to respond as well to say, hey, great job. We really support what you're doing. And so there have been players that have come forth, because one of the studies that we're actually going to do is we're going to look to see what are the effects of those who have suffered post-concussion syndrome, as well as those who are having chronic pain on a daily basis? And can we get them off of their prescription medications, the opioids that they're using, by simply using something like CBD and a bit of the THC as well? And the THC is the tetrahydrocannabinol, which is what gives you the high. And of course, if you've got high amounts of that, of course, then it creates a greater intoxication. But the idea is we're going to use small amounts of that in combination with the CBD, and together they create this synergistic effect, or sometimes they call it the entourage effect. One helps the other, and the other helps the other one as well. And it helps to provide benefits within the body. And something that most people don't know is that we actually have something called an endocannabinoid system in our body. Our body produces cannabinoids, right? So our body is producing these, and the reason for that is it's to help create this balance within the system. And so by taking these extra cannabinoids, from plants, it's adding to our own natural system that we have as well.
Wow, I'm in
How
no.
the heck? How does our body actually produce that chemical, or that, I don't even know, is it a chemical?
Yes,
Would it be
they're
considered a
chemicals.
chemical?
Yeah, they're actually chemicals that are produced. So, for example, Charleston, when I mentioned about this inflammation, and after a game of football, you've got tons of inflammation. So the body responds by producing certain chemicals to come in and help repair that inflammatory effects within the body. And that then sets off this cannabinoid system in order to help to recover quicker and to create what we call a homeostasis, or a balance within our physiological systems in our body.
So what other athletes or what other uses can this be for?
Yeah. So and again, you asked that $1 million question about how this all got started, and
Yeah.
I have to tilt my hat to a couple of individuals. One, my son Seamus, who actually played for the University of Saskatchewan Huskies and played 5 years, and wanted to go on to the CFL as well, and then I know that he's got a brain, so I said, use your brain. But it was him who introduced me to this whole concept of, Dad, why don't you take a look at cannabinoids, cannabis, and see whether or not it's beneficial. And then he also introduced me to a Dr. Lester Grinspoon. And Dr. Lester Grinspoon was a psychiatrist at Harvard University in Boston. And in 2016, he sent an open letter to Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, and said, Roger, it's criminal that you're not allowing your football players to use cannabis because it's anti-inflammatory and it's neuroprotective. So I had the great pleasure of meeting Dr. Grinspoon before he passed on a few years ago, when I went to a conference in Boston. and we had a great chat. And what one of Lester's dreams was to be able to give CBD and THC in a pill or a capsule, have it on the table, and tell Johnny and Susie to take their cannabinoids and run out and play. so, 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 so that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to pick up the baton for Dr. Grinspoon. And there's actually a pot plant named after Lester as well. It's called the Dr. Grinspoon. And so I'm hoping to pick up that baton, and so that one day we'll be able to have jars of cannabinoids on the table, and mom and dad will say to their kids, take your cannabinoids and go out and play.
That's,
Oh wow.
yeah. I'll let
I don't
Charles.
know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Well,
I still got to process that one a little bit and kind of put that into perspective. But the CBD doesn't have the, I guess, the hallucinogen, or however you want to say, the
Yeah,
effects
the
of
intoxication.
THC.
It does. Yeah, it doesn't create the intoxication or the psychoactive effect. Yeah, exactly. You're exactly
So
right,
technically
Charles.
CBD is safe for kids then, right?
Definitely. We actually, and one of the members of this research team, Dr. Jane Alcorn, will be analyzing all of our blood and our saliva samples to look at the chemistry of how it's going into our body and how it's being used in our body. Something called the pharmacokinetics. What is how does the drugs react in the body? And so one of the things that Dr. Alcorn's going to do is she's going to analyze the blood to look at how the CBD is actually used in the body. And we know that, and one of the things that she's doing right now with others at the University of Saskatchewan is she's doing a trial looking at kids with epilepsy, and they've used a 20-to-1 CBD to THC formulation to show that these children with epilepsy, they stop their seizures. And some children stop completely. Some reduce from 300 seizures a day down to 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 a day. So it's amazing. It's an amazing
Oh wow.
compound of compounds. So we do have to be able to promote this, and it is safe for kids. We just have to show it.
I think that's one of the biggest things too, Patrick, that I struggle with. I come from the era of that I wasn't I didn't smoke a lot of weed. In high school, university, I went to U of S. A good friend of mine, Scott Fleury, coach of the Huskies, right? And my son works for the Huskies now, and so the education part to me, I think, is the part that always has to get over that hurdle, because to me, I think of marijuana. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get high. I had a few bad experiences in university smoking up, and it messed me up. Right, I couldn't snap out of it. But now, and even my mom is 83 years old and has chronic arthritis in her hands and all over, and we were looking at different ways to be able to help her with the pain, right? But it's that education part to be able to get over the hump of, oh, marijuana is bad for you, or it's that, it's just going to get you high, and to educate them that it's safe for children. It's good for the pain. It's good for that. How do you talk to people like my mom, who's an 83-year-old Hispanic lady?
To say, yeah, because it's almost like it's almost frowned upon in like an old style
Yes.
of thinking, where you think like, oh, drugs are bad.
Yeah.
Okay,
say no to drugs.
This drug isn't bad anymore. So not like, how do you portray that to people who automatically think negatively about cannabis?
And to be able to say that, like, in the vitamin way of, hey, take your Flintstone cannabis pills now, like the kids used to do with the vitamins. How do you transform that thought process in people?
Yeah, well, as you know, and what you've just talked about, there's still a huge stigma around cannabis and pot in particular, and I want to clarify for the listeners and viewers that it's not marijuana that we're going to be using. It's going to be the cannabinoids within the marijuana plant. So we're going to extract those components. All right. from the marijuana plant, the CBD and the THC, and we're going to use those as the chemical or the drug, and they're considered chemicals or drugs, right? But we're not going to be getting our athletes to be smoking pot, all right? And I'm not saying that they shouldn't or should be. All I'm simply saying is I just want to make sure we clarify that we're stripping those vital components. They're so important. I mean, God put that plant on this earth for a reason, and it's been used for 10,000 years, and they've been using it as a medicinal plant for that period of time. But it's those particular components, the CBD and the THC within the plant, that we're actually going to extract, and we're going to use the natural products to look at. Again, can we reduce concussions by implementing this in a season of football? And we're going to get the players to actually take the CBD 30 days straight. And then we're going to put them on a placebo where they're not going to be taking any CBD. And then there'll be another group who will do it the other way around. They'll start with a placebo and they'll end up with a CBD. And it'll be what we call the double-blind project, where they won't know what they're getting, and nor will we as researchers. There'll be one person that will know exactly what you'd be getting, or Charleston's getting, or whoever. Yeah, so that's the whole focus of it.
And how soon is this going to take place?
We're hoping to get started as early as in June or July at the latest. And as I said, one of the things that we're trying to do is go through our ethical process right now, ethical applications. So we're submitting those applications, and I did that yesterday, as well as now we have to get Health Canada approval on the particular CBD concentrations that we plan to use.
How long is that process going to take? Nothing government is quick. So
right.
Well, I'm not going to answer that because I want to get this thing passed.
Smart man. Yeah, I'll trash the government. You don't have to say anything. Yeah.
I find that absolutely amazing, though, even being able to come up with something like that, like just being a part of that alone. And especially with the National Football League, it seems like the CFL would have jumped on this way before the National Football League would have. But the thing is that I guess the NFL is being more proactive about it. And like I said, you hear more and more guys that are outspoken about the whole situation. And I find it absolutely amazing, man. I actually do. And now that I'm in the industry as a worker, and seeing everything from, a factory perspective, a manufacturing perspective, I got a newfound respect for the people who grow it, produce it, extract it, like are able to be in the lab separating this stuff, terpenes, and like you said, everything that's revolved around it, bringing it down in the pill form. Like, this stuff is wild, the type of things that they can do with just this plant. And look at Johan, like, what the hell are you talking about?
Well, you know what? Just after 20 minutes of listening to Patrick here talk, I'm a believer. And as Charleston, I was never one to be able to dabble in the cannabis side of anything, whether it be medical or not. But listen to you, it's inspiring. So I'm good to that. But we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back. I want to talk to about the CFL component, about that, and how we can play more into that with the CFL players. Especially, it's legal here, but I mean, again, I guess maybe about educating, or not sure about that. We're going to talk a little bit more at some of the other companies that have been helping you, Patrick, along the way, which has been fantastic. And we're just going to talk a little bit more about everything. And Chuck, let's talk to you about your off-season job. Congrats with into the cannabis world. We're going to get into that, but we'll do that right after we get back from this short commercial break.
Hi, my name is Rob Peterson. I'm the broker owner of Realty One in Regina. Real estate and life is about great people, and that's why I'm associated with Charleston Hughes and Johan Zielinski and IKS to sponsor the Better with Age podcast. Realty One was founded in Regina 11 years ago. It's an independent brokerage, it's local, and it's full of great people helping great local Regina people buy and sell properties. It's entrepreneurial based, which means You have non-narcissistic agents that have your best interest in mind, not their own. In these coronavirus times, real estate market right now in Regina and Saskatchewan is thriving because people are thinking more local. They're not thinking about traveling because we can't, and that's driving our market. When you hire a realtor, no matter who it is, no matter what company, please interview them. Please make sure they're a good personal fit for you, because that's what this is all about. It's good people connecting themselves with someone that they know has their best interest in mind. And that's what the Realty One family does, and that's what a lot of agents in Regina do. But make sure you take your time and find the best fit for you and your family.
It's that time of year when divisions are decided, champions are crowned, and legends are born. Now, it's your turn to win big. You've heard the name just about everywhere, MyBookie. They're the industry's leading online sportsbook and casino, and it's not hard to understand why. With thousands of lines to bet on all your favorite sports, NFL, NBA, and college ball. Check, check, and check. MMA and soccer, they've got all the latest odds, period. Take advantage of MyBookie's prop builder and live in-game betting, where every single run, throw, and touchdown is another chance for you to put cash in your pocket. Visit their mobile-friendly website today and get your deposit matched halfway up to $1,000. Just use the promo code when you make your first deposit. The best part is they make it simple, with a variety of ways to deposit instantly, including credit card, bank transfer, Bitcoin, and more. Whether you're at home or on the go, on your laptop or on your phone, it's not too late to make your New Year's resolution a resolution to get paid. Bet, win, and get paid at MyBookie.
Okay, now I gotta change the scenery, and we're back with Pat the Smoke. Hold on, what kind of nickname do we give you now?
Whatever you want, I'm good with.
Are you Mr. Cannabinoid? How you say it?
Cannabinoid, yeah. We're Mr.
Cannabinoid.
Mr.
Cannabinoid.
Yeah, Professor Cannabinoid.
There you go.
Good with me.
That's
There you
hashtag
go.
Professor
You know what?
Cannabinoid.
I like it. You know, the crazy part about the cannabinoid is that I've probably been taking cannabinoid since, I would say, 2012 is when I had my first surgery on my hand. And I've had 2 surgeries throughout my football career, and I've never taken any pill that any doctor has ever given me across the counter post-surgery. So I think that describes a lot about what CBD does for your body and how much of a healing process that it can actually put you through. I know for my hand, I had surgery and didn't take any pills. And even post-surgery and when I was supposed to be in my recovery stage and my strength and my building back my range of motion and my strength stage, I didn't even have to go through none of that process. I was right back into normal, right back into lifting weights and moving. And the doctors couldn't believe how fast I recovered from that without having to do any rehab or therapy after post-surgery for the most part. And I think I healed up from a broken hand within like 4.5 weeks.
Wow, that's
On
pretty
like a
fast.
maybe 6-week injury, 6 to 8 week injury. And I felt like that CBD that I was taking the entire time when I was having those painful nights and aches and pains and my hand is hurting like crazy. And I think CBD was the one thing that I took that got me over the hump.
Mm-hmm. You know, Chuck, that reminds me of something else about our studies. And one of the focus, the very first study, what we're going to do is we're going to take a group of football players, hockey players, rugby players that are going through very, very high levels of resistance training. And as you know, you've got to pump a lot of iron prior to the season starting to make sure that you're in good physical condition. And one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to increase the dosage of the CBD. We're going to start with a low dose, and we're going to go a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. And we're going to put these players on doses for about 2 weeks at a time, and we're going to measure again their blood before and after, and then we're going to dose them up again and dose them up again. And what we're trying to do with that, using this dose escalation study, is to try and determine an optimal dosage for athletes to use that they can potentially use on a daily basis. Then we're going to take that optimal dosage and then we're going to put that into the football season. And then the third study is we're going to then use those who have got chronic pain and post-concussion syndrome, and again, use that optimal dosage to see whether or not we can control chronic pain in individuals who are either retired or still going through their playing days and still feel that they need to be taking something.
And
So that sort of summarizes the 3 studies.
That's unbelievable. That's great that this is finally coming out, or these studies are coming. And how long till you get the results, or how long can you start to publish this, or what's your time span in between that for afterwards?
Yeah, the total grant that we've got from the NFL is over a 3-year period. And as I mentioned, our first study, we're really hoping to start in the summertime prior to a football season. And the idea is to get them started in sort of May, June, July, and then we can take that optimal dosage and put it into a football season that starts in late August into September, October, November. And hopefully by Christmas time, we're going to be able to get some results out, some data out that we'll be able to publish to show what the effects are of our dosage formulation.
Chuck, I want to ask you then, okay, with this, hearing this news, you played in the CFL how many years? Hopefully one more year, maybe 2. What we're trying to be able, what's your thought process on this, and why the CFL hasn't jumped all over this, or what's your thought process as a CFL player about this, and possibly, can you go to the CFL Players Union or the Players Association, the president, and say, hey, let's work with Professor Neary. Let's get involved with this. Why does the CFL always seem like the last to the dance?
I wouldn't say they're always last to the dance. I mean, it's something that's known, I guess, all around the sports world when it comes to making a decision like that. And I think it always has to happen from the top down. And now that the NFL just went out of their way and just kind of made a leap and jumped out there to kind of raise awareness and say, hey, we're going to look into it. We're going to try to be proactive. We're going to do what we can to, look after player safety. And it's one of those things where, like, once somebody takes that first leap, you can intend on somebody else following right behind, right? So I wouldn't intend the CFL isn't, researching and looking at the idea of it, but I think in the future there will be.
And has there been?
And Chuck, just to follow up on that, as I mentioned, some of your colleagues have already approached me to say that they do want to be involved, and not necessarily from an organizational perspective, but from an individual perspective. I've had individuals approach me and say, hey, can we meet? I'd love to chat with you. I've got some ideas how we can move this forward in the CFL. So I agree with you. I think that sometimes it does have to start at the top and it has to be filtered down from there.
Would that be allowed?
Right.
Would that be allowed, Chuck, from a Players Association standpoint? And to Professor, would you be willing to bring on CFL players that volunteer their bodies, their time to this?
Yeah, I certainly would, and I would open that up. I think the difficulty always becomes, that they belong to a particular team, and the teams may or may not agree with what's happening or what's going on. So again, I think there's an educational process that has to be done. And the other, I'm not sure about difficulty, is that when we're going through this season of football, one of the things that we're going to get them to do is to stay on their medications, all right, but we don't want them to be using any other cannabis products. So, for example, if Chuck were to get involved, we'd have to say, Chuck, we want you to be involved. We're going to give you this much CBD and THC. You don't know how you're going to get it. But one of the things you can't do is you can't smoke any more pot. So So that becomes a difficulty as well, because again, some players will use that for medicinal purposes to come home and relax, right? And I'm telling them, no, we don't want you to, because we don't know what the interference effect will be.
Which for some players, I think it would be hard. Like you said, they've been doing that for a while, right? Chuck just smiles. But and I'm not speaking on your behalf, Chuck, but I'm just saying, I know some players that would be tough. But in vice versa, I think it would be also engaging for some players that don't smoke marijuana. They would be saying, yeah, I want to take part in this study because look at the future benefits that this can have. So, Chuck, how does it sound from a CFL player's standpoint? Have you guys ever talked about this?
I don't know, man. I might just stay away from those grounds of speaking for the CFL, PA, and speaking for other players. But the thing is that I'm happy that guys even reach out of put themselves out there and say, hey, I want to take part in this, especially because it is just CBD, and like I said, CBD is easy accessible. You can test positive for THC if you are taking CBD. So it's one of those things that I have been taking for a while, whether it comes in a sports rub, whether it comes in a pill form, or whether it comes in a tincture drop. Like, I know that it's helped me quite a bit, and it's helped me throughout the years. I mean, who knows? I played football till I was 38. Maybe that's the secret. Maybe that was the magic potion that I need to survive on the football field for so long. And maybe that's what Tom Brady's taking.
No speculation here, but whatever he's taking.
No speculation, but I'm just saying it could be it.
Yeah, he's a very healthy guy, all natural, so it could tie into this. Yeah, and doing that. Chuck, do you want to talk about a little bit what you're doing now with cannabis and the company down in Saginaw?
Yeah, I just partnered with the company here and jumped on board with the company called the Brand Labs, and basically, we're just like any other cannabis company out there. We're more of a vertical type company that, we produce and bring in different, I guess, companies and their products from all over the world, man. So we bring them in and bring in the best product and the best leading brands out there, and we bring them all to Michigan. So we try to expose Michigan with the best products out there.
Good for you. And you're happy with that? You got big smiles when you came on the show.
Happy as I can be.
Good for you.
No, I think I've joined on with a company that really appreciates what I do, and they like what I bring to the table, and that's really all you can really say with the company. Really, is they like you just as much as you like them.
Yeah. Any CFL news, Chuck, to pass along on your way?
Free as a bird, baby.
free agent still. Okay, well, I think
free as a bird. I ain't got nothing but crickets.
Professor Pat's got
That's all they got from them old fella like me.
Yeah, Patrick's got the nice rider shirt. I think I know where his heart. He wants you to be able to sign on if that's a possibility.
Hey, you never, man. Still a long off season. So as long as I continue to do what I do best, and that's train and run and make sure I stay young forever. That's all that matters. At this point, I'm working to maintain my physique and making sure I don't get fat. But
well, that's good, Professor. Tell us a little bit about some of the companies you've partnered with that's helping you out along the way here.
Yeah, thanks for that. I really have to take my hat off to a company by the name of Nectar Health Sciences. About 3 or 4 years ago, again, I mentioned my son sort of moved me along in this area, and Seamus introduced me to Mike Graw from Nectar Health Sciences, and he said, we've got some projects that we really want to do. We want to look to see what's the effect on the body, and we could potentially use some of the physiology that you're using in your lab to show us the effects of our products. And then, of course, that then led to working with a company by the name of My Next Health. And so My Next Health and Nectar Health Sciences are working together. And then when this project came up, I approached Mike and I said, Mike, this is coming along. said, "Are you still interested in helping us out and funding in some way?" And he said, "Most definitely." And so they came to the table with 400,000 US dollars to put towards the project, whether that was going to be towards the purchase of the cannabinoids or to help out in other ways as well. And then also a part of that, and a big part of that, is looking at the genetic analysis. So we're gonna collect saliva. We're going to get these players to spit in a little tube. We're going to analyze the saliva to look at some of their genes, and looking at the genes that are responsible for your metabolism and the metabolic changes that happen in your muscle when you're training. And so this is going to be a really exciting part of the project as well, to partner with some of this to look at some of the genetics, as well as the University of Saskatchewan is going to analyze some of the blood for the genes as well, to try and get some indication of the relationship. What's happening in our bodies when we're using these cannabinoids, and what's happening and how do they influence our genetic makeup, and
You
can they?
you got I will pay to be able to find out some information about Charleston's genetics and how the hell that guy does what he does, and to be able
Hey,
to do
I'll
that.
pay to see that too.
Yeah.
Shoot, maybe I should take part in this.
Yeah. Well, get up here, Charleston. We got to need your spit. We need to figure out as many things, because I think he's, again, to do what Charleston's done for the amount of years, he's a genetic freak, I think, and be able to do that. So I want to be able to see those results. That's fantastic. So anything else, Professor, that you wanted to be able to say about your project? Or Chuck, do you have anything else you want to be able to ask?
Yeah, I'll certainly
No,
will
man,
add
I
a few
just
more things. Go
oh
ahead,
yeah, go
Charleston,
ahead.
and then I'll finish up. Okay, so one of the other things that I really must say is that, I can't be doing this all on my own. And so what we've done is we've put together what I think is one of the best scientific teams in Canada in this particular area. We have people at the University of Saskatchewan who are going to be analyzing the blood and the saliva, and who have worked in the cannabis realm for many years. We have other exercise physiologists and clinical psychologists, and at the University of Regina and Saskatchewan and UBC Okanagan. We have a pediatric neurologist at Children's Hospital in Vancouver. We have a pain management specialist, somebody in pain who is top in his field here at the University of Regina as well. So we've put together, I think, just an awesome team. And there's a 15 of us on this grant, and although I'm leading and heading the whole grant, I could not be doing this without the collective of all of these individuals. As I mentioned, from exercise physiologists to sport psychologists, clinical uh, uh, psychologists as well, just a whole vast array of individuals and bright people, much brighter than myself. And that's what I've always done my whole life. I've just surrounded myself with bright people and good graduate students. And I have some excellent graduate students who are going to be a part of this as well.
Good for you. That's awesome.
That's usually what they say. You got to surround yourself with people that's smarter than you.
Yeah. I do that
That's what
daily.
I've been told.
Yeah, I do that daily. Trust me. My wife, she's one of them. So, anything else, Chuck, you wanted to be able to say?
No, man. I just want to say thank you for coming on the show, man. This was awesome, and I appreciate all the knowledge. And I know you're gonna keep us posted, so we can have you back on the show, so we can talk about all these wonderful results about me cracking my head against other players, and if CBD actually helps for it. And if it does, I still need to take it, because I forget a lot. So maybe it'll help with memory loss. I know we had on Jim McMahon recently, and he said it helped him quite a bit with the effects with cannabis and helping out with his health and all that good stuff. So I know that there's some research out there, and there's so much that hasn't been discovered that still needs to be discovered. And I know you're the one that's gonna open up all those Pandora's boxes and stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I really hope so, and I'm looking forward to the next time we can chat on your show and be able to provide you and the listeners and viewers with an update on how things are going.
Yeah, definitely. It's
That
one of
would
the
be
things you definitely opened up my eyes, and thank you for coming on the show, Patrick. It's fantastic. We look forward to, and I look forward to, Charleston, I know, and all our viewers will look forward to hearing from the results. Good luck with everything in the future, and we'll be in touch. Thanks for coming on the show.
Great. Thank you very much.